company that cooked the books. Enron's collapse. In a world where corporate giants stand tall, basking in the shimmering light of their success, it's heartening, or should we say disheartening, to remember the times they faltered and how. It wasn't just an economic meltdown. It was a betrayal of trust, the trust of employees, investors, and the entire global economy, or so dramatic line goes. Founded in the 1980s as a humble pipeline company. Yes, pipelines. About as exciting as watching paint dry. It had metamorphosed into this shining emblem of business innovation. Amidst the Y2K shenanigans of an era of dot-com bubbles, unbridled optimism, and the belief that you could stick .com onto anything and make a fortune, Enron was seemingly like a seasoned monarch, unshaken by the turbulence of the new age. To the world, Enron appeared as the beacon of corporate success. Look at Enron, innovating. Look at Enron, revolutionizing. Look at Enron, diversifying. It was like that one overachiever everyone had in school. A little too good to be true, perhaps. Enron's consistent acclaim and accolades only solidified its golden boy image. Why? It was hailed as America's most innovative company by Fortune for 6 consecutive years. 6. At this point, one wonders if there was a shortage of innovative companies or an excess of wool pulled over Fortune's eyes. And then we have the heartstrings to tug on. People like Sarah, a dedicated employee who had watched Enron rise, placing her faith, and worse, her life savings, in its seemingly infallible stock. Or Robert, the Wall Street analyst, who, like a smitten lover, penned lyrical praises for Enron's financial wizardry. To them, Enron wasn't just stock codes and dividends. It was a dream, an aspiration, a future. Enron saga's breakthrough moment was nothing short of a genius move. Or so it appeared. Introducing the gas bank concept, they ingeniously positioned themselves as the go-betweens for gas producers and users. Think of them as the matchmakers of the energy world. No candlelit dinners, but certainly plenty of gaslighting. The model was a revelation, ensuring a stable market, predictable prices, and profits that flowed more generously than compliments at a family reunion. Their triumphs were nothing to scoff at. If accolades were currency, Enron would be flush with cash. Remember that title by Fortune, America's most innovative company, 6 years in a row. To put that in perspective, by 2000, Enron's stock value had overshadowed stalwarts like General Electric. Yes, the same General Electric that had Thomas Edison's fingerprints all over it. Edison might have invented the light bulb, but Enron sure knew how to bask in its glow. Now, a moment to discuss strategy, because Enron had them in spades. Their diversification was laudable. From energy to broadband services to weather derivatives. Yes, they tried to monetize the weather, and Mother Nature probably wasn't too pleased. Their infamous mark-to-market accounting system turned projected profits into real ones. And let's not forget the special purpose entities, designed to keep debt conveniently out of sight. Out of sight, out of mind. Right. Of course, to understand the enormity of Enron's ascendancy, one needs a market comparison. By the dawn of the millennium, Enron's stock was the darling of Wall Street, trading at a peak of $90.75. The globe-spanning empire had assets worth $65 billion. That's billion with a B. But as the saying goes, pride comes before a fall, and Enron's pride was skyscraper high. However, every good story has a twist, does not it? Behind this glittering stint, the cracks were starting to form. The foundations were shaking. The larger Enron grew, the harder it became to maintain the grand illusion. Whispers had turned into full-blown conversations. The financial world, once wooed by Enron's charm, now arched a collective eyebrow in suspicion. Did Enron really earn those profits? Or were the numbers, much like a cheap romance novel, utterly fictional? Analysts pored over financial reports like detectives at a crime scene. You see, the company had always relied on its complex web of finances to dazzle and confuse. It was a bit like watching a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat, except this time, they were pulling numbers out of thin air. And while most were too enamored or too baffled to probe further, some, like Jim Chanos and Bethany McLean, decided to peek behind the curtain. But the real bombshell, Sharon Watkins, our internal whistleblower, when she remarked about the company imploding in a wave of accounting scandals, it wasn't just a prediction. It was the writing on the wall. As details emerged, the scale of Enron's financial finagling became apparent. Profits were overstated by almost $600 million over a span of 4 years. And Rufasto, the CFO, was playing financial twister, bending and contorting to keep the ruse alive. His partnerships, aptly named LJM1 and LJM2, because why bother with creative names when you're creatively accounting, were designed to buy Enron's poorly performing assets, conveniently keeping debts off the balance sheet. It was a financial merry-go-round, but the music was starting to slow. To add fuel to this already raging fire, Arthur Andersen, the very firm responsible for auditing Enron's finances, was caught in a frantic fit of shredding Enron-related documents. It seemed the only thing transparent about the entire ordeal was the shredder bins. Now, let's talk legal consequences. And oh boy, were they a doozy. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, often criticized for being as effective as a chocolate teapot, sprang into commendable action. Enron's audacious escapades landed them in the hot seat. The very methodology they had employed, the mark-to-market accounting, was now their Achilles heel. Turned out, projecting future profits and booking them as current income wasn't just invented. It was downright fraudulent. The repercussions were immense. Shareholders lost nearly $11 billion. To give you an idea, that's enough to buy every resident of Houston, Texas, Enron's hometown, a brand new iPhone, with some change to spare. Thousands of employees lost not only their jobs but their life savings. Internally, the dynamics were even more dramatic. The once revered leadership was now being vilified. Kenneth Lay, the benevolent father figure of the company, and Jeffrey Skilling, the hard-nosed CEO, were now seen in a new light. A spotlight of scrutiny and skepticism. They played the ignorance card, but few were buying it. If they didn't know about the financial machinations, they should have. If they did, well, that was even worse. Meanwhile, Fasto, the once lauded financial maestro, became the poster boy for corporate greed. His double dealing, both figuratively and literally, earned him more than just side eyes. The legal vultures were circling, and Fasto looked a lot like carrion. Loyalties were tested. Employees who once bled Enron blue were now helping investigators piece together the puzzle. The corporate environment was so tense. You could cut it with a knife, or perhaps, more fittingly, shred it with a machine. Financially speaking, the aftermath was an apocalypse. Enron, once valued at $70 billion, filed for bankruptcy in December 2001. This wasn't just any bankruptcy. It held the illustrious title of the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history, at least until WorldCom had its hold my beer moment a year later. Over 20,000 employees were left jobless, and many, due to Enron's stock program, were penniless. Now, onto the courtroom drama. In the biggest plot twist since Darth Vader's fatherhood revelation, Lay and Skilling were found guilty of conspiracy and fraud in 2006. Lay, possibly saving himself from a prison cell, took a permanent exit by succumbing to a heart attack before sentencing. Skilling, on the other hand, was sentenced to 24 years, although legal loopholes later reduced this. Meanwhile, Fasto, perhaps in an Oscar-worthy supporting role, got a 6-year stay in federal prison. Guess who's not going to the annual CFO conference this year? Regulation took center stage post-Enron. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act was swiftly passed in 2002, tightening the noose on corporate financial reporting. The act was Congress's way of saying, fool me once, shame on you. Try to fool me after Enron, and well, good luck with that. In the aftermath, Kenneth Lay's once glorious empire lay in ruins. His betrayal cost pensions, savings, and trust. Reflecting on the scandal, many wondered, how did we not see this coming? The lessons were numerous. For starters, if something seems too good to be true, maybe don't bet your retirement on it. Sarbanes-Oxley emerged as the guardrails on corporate America's highway, aiming to prevent companies from driving off a financial cliff, or at least give them a speeding ticket along the way. The law had more sections than a giant sandwich, each one meticulously designed to ensure that CEOs and CFOs couldn't just shrug and say, "Oops, my bad." But the biggest lesson was about human nature. Greed, ambition, and the allure of the spotlight can blind even the sharpest minds. Checks and balances aren't just about numbers. They're about keeping our baser instincts in check. The future impact. A more skeptical, wary investing public. Mom and pop investors now thought twice before diving headfirst into the next big thing. New corporate buzzwords cropped up. Transparency, responsibility, accountability. Though, they probably should have been in the lexicon long before our Enron escapade. While Enron as a company was long gone, its legacy lived on. A cautionary tale told in business schools and boardrooms worldwide. It was a testament to the fact that while buildings, profits, and stock prices might tower over cities, they can crumble in an instant when built on a foundation of deceit. So, as the curtain drops on our Enron tale, remember this: every ship, no matter how grand, needs a good captain. Without one, it's just a matter of time before it hits an iceberg. And as Enron showed us, even titans can sink.